Alright folks, welcome back to the FPL Crypto channel. It is Friday night, the deadline is in about 12 hours time for Game Week 5, and I decided instead of posting on the community page on YouTube, I've decided to do a quick video because with a bit of time on my hands based on my captaincy choice. So I've been in a dilemma all week between Sterling and Salah. They're my two captaincy candidates and they have been for the first 4 game weeks. And I've been over and back between both of them, but I've finally come to a conclusion that one is the better option over the other for the game week coming up tomorrow. So I thought I'd share a quick video just summarizing why I feel like this certain player is the guy I'm going to go into game week 5 with as my captaincy choice. Right, how do I begin this? Well, first of all, let's just have a look at my lineup for the week. This is pretty much set on stone. Obviously, the captaincy isn't until I kind of clear that bit up, but the rest is. So Pope, Digne, Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold and Lundstrom. Trent was my transfer this week, straight into the team at home to Newcastle. I think a clean sheet is really on the cards for Liverpool this week. Sterling, Salah, Kevin De Bruyne and Mason Mount in midfield. And then Haller and King lead the line. So quite happy with my first sub to Montoya in there because I think he has the best chance of getting some sort of clean sheet points anyway at home to Burnley. Then Donker and Greenwood then locked deep in the bench. Greenwood might start this week because of the amount of injuries United have picked up. The likes of Martial, Pogba, all those players are out. Lingard's a doubt, so there might be space in the squad for Greenwood this time round. Still wouldn't play him. It's too risky. I have players that are pretty certain to start, so there's no reason to take a risk this early in the season. So let's look at what I have on the cards, on the tables for captaincy. I have Sterling and Salah as both my options. Now, Kevin De Bruyne is also an option. For me, I'm dismissing him because of his... he doesn't have a high ceiling of returns. Then again, he got 13 points last game week. It's kind of hard to say that. But over the course of the season, I feel like Sterling has more explosive FPL points potential. He's more capable of scoring those 20 points, those hat-tricks that get you like 20 plus points or around 16, 17 points week in, week out. Fair enough, he has a chance of blanking too. De Bruyne seems to just tick along and steadily get assists. But I'm just missing De Bruyne just for the sake of this video. I've narrowed it down to Sterling and Salah. So let's just start with Salah. Okay, I've been on Salah all week, and a few developments today have kind of changed my tune a little bit as to how confident I am with him. First of all, the pros are, fixture-wise, it's Newcastle at home, early days. First game tomorrow. This is 7:30 Eastern time in Canada, so 12:30 GMT. It's a home game, which always kind of favours Salah in front of the Kop. He's rested, no international break for him, so he definitely has a 2-week break under his belt, which means he's more fit and ready and less prone to be rotated. He's not going to be rotated. Let's face it, he's going to start. It's pretty much certain, so there's no rotation worries there. The cons then might be, you have to look at Newcastle's performances over the last few game weeks, and you have to admit that they have been resolute in defence. Let's look at just the Premier League stats for a moment. So this is the stats table. You can access this for free on PremierLeague.com. Goals conceded so far this season. Newcastle right down the list here. They have 5, so 12th most goals conceded. Spurs have conceded more goals than them this season so far. 3 of those goals were against Norwich too, which was like a freakishly bad result in game week 2. They got demolished, and they have really steadied the ship since. So on the flip side, if you look up at Norwich, like they've conceded the most goals this season. So I'll get to that in a bit when it comes to the Man City attacking options. But just something to think about. Newcastle aren't leaking that many goals so far this season. They definitely set up defensively and are quite solid so far. So let's talk about Sterling next. Okay, so pros for Sterling captaincy, or Aguero or Kevin De Bruyne, whoever you own. It goes back to the Norwich goals conceded and chances conceded. They conceded the most chances this season. But more importantly, there was some detrimental news for any Norwich fans out there in terms of the injury list for these guys. So I'm just going to highlight a tweet I have here. So for in terms of the press conferences, their coach Daniel Farke, manager, announced 6 defensive injuries, 4 centre backs: Godfrey, Vrancic, Roberts, Grant Hanley, Zimmerman, Tim Klose, all ruled out. It's really, really grim in terms of their defensive options right now. They're really down to the bare minimum. It looks like they'll have to play some I think a defensive midfielder and maybe a wing back in the centre defence. They really don't have any options left. They're down to the... And Daniel Farke's even quoted in saying, I don't have the quote in front of me, but he did say that the only way they're going to play against Man City now is to attack them because they don't have any defenders. So that bodes really well if you have an attacking player for City. They can just cut them right open on the break. Much more space available to the players, which is why I can't dismiss Sterling now. Sterling's got to be my captaincy for game week 5. I can't... Obviously, De Bruyne, I've dismissed him for my reasons already, but for me, Sterling's going to be locked in. In terms of ownership, he's very highly owned, so he's not going to be a differential captaincy by any means. Actually, Salah is owned by less players. So, with the attacking style of Man City, they really need to get at teams. I feel like Sterling will get a lot of chances this week. The only con is the rotation worry. Because of this fixture being sandwiched in between the international break, where Sterling played a lot of minutes for England, and the first leg of the first game in the Champions League on Wednesday night, Shakhtar away for Man City, there is that slight rotation risk, but it always is present for Man City players. The one caveat I'll add to that is I'm going to go with Sterling captain this week, and I'm going to go with Salah vice as opposed to Kevin De Bruyne vice captain. The reason being, if there's a fluky double benching by Pep, which I wouldn't rule out by any chance, any figment of the imagination, he's well capable of doing something like that to surprise us all. I have Salah as vice captain, and Sterling tends not to come off the bench when he is given a rest and doesn't start a game. So I'm hoping if Sterling does not start this week, my captaincy will fall onto Mo Salah, and I feel like he'll mop up a couple of points early on against Newcastle anyway. Maybe not as much as Sterling is capable of getting. Overall, though, I've had a gut feeling on Salah all week. The captaincy was on him up until early this morning when I heard about all this press conference news coming out of Norwich. So it's got to be Sterling because of those the crippled defensively Norwich are, and I feel like Sterling's going to take advantage of them, as is De Bruyne, as is Sergio Aguero. So if you have one of them assets, I would encourage you strongly to consider them over somebody else for the captaincy this week. Do you know what? FPL is such a strange game. Don't come back and hate me if it all goes tits up for Man City, but hopefully it doesn't. I have good faith that they'll do well this week. I'm going to just point you towards the fantasy football scout. I'm just going to zoom in on this a little bit so you can see it better. I'm going to just look at the Game Week 5 scout pick. So if you've never visited fantasyfootballscout.co.uk, they post a 15-team squad based on the most popular options for the week. So it's kind of listed to put it together with a combination of statistics and expert panel views and stuff like that. So it's really kind of a good solid idea of who are the main contenders to score high this week. And this is their Game Week 5 squad. So sometimes it's nice to kind of compare and contrast to your own squad. I like the fact that I have Lundstrom, Trent, Salah, Mount, Sterling, Haller, and if you include the bench, Pope. So that's 7 options that I have in the scout squad this week. How many of you got? Maybe stick them in the comments. It gives you a bit of confidence going into the week that you have the right players for the fixtures coming in. And it's no harm comparing sometimes. So just a little thing to point out. Maybe you guys want to check it out when it comes. They usually release these picks late in the day, so maybe 24 hours before deadline. So Salah is my vice. He was captained all week. Now he's my vice. Sterling is my captain against Norwich because of those depleted defensive options for Norwich, and the fact that Sterling has a high ceiling of returns when he gets going. He's done really well so far this season. One more point to make. Sometimes in FPL, it's not always about the outcome, the result. It's about making the right decision and making a decision that you feel confident in, based on a number of factors. I have listed out the pros and cons of captaining Salah or Sterling, and the pros for Sterling just outweigh the pros for Salah. That doesn't mean that Salah's going to score less than Sterling. It just means in my mind I've made the correct decision, no matter what the result is. So Salah could go out and score a hat-trick tomorrow and Sterling could just get the 1 goal or something like that. That's fine. That's the way FPL is. But if you ran the numbers and the permutations maybe 100 times, out of those 100 times, Sterling would probably score higher than Salah. So there's a little bit of luck involved in this game, but just try and kind of come to peace with your decision and know that you made it by examining all the facts and figures in front of you, and be confident in yourself. God, that was a little bit philosophical. Bit late in the day for that philosophy, but there you go. That's my little words of wisdom for FPL. So good luck this week. Deadline isn't probably, whenever you're watching this, the deadline could already be passed, and Salah's already scored a hat-trick. If that's the case, then dislike this video and unsubscribe. Well, probably not. Sterling's going to do well this week, I'm confident. Take care, guys. I'll see you all soon.